The Taken. The stars outside the window were calm. Elena sat alone in the control room of mining station Theta 9. It was a small station on the edge of human space, far from Earth, far from war. She had been working here for 2 years. Quiet work, peaceful work. She liked the silence of space. It was late. The other workers were asleep. Only the soft hum of machines filled the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Elena looked up. That never happened. She stood and tapped on the control screen. No response. Then the alarm began to ring, loud, sharp, full of panic. "Unknown ship approaching," said the AI voice. "Shields offline, weapons offline." Elena's heart jumped. She ran to the main screen. A large dark ship was coming fast. It didn't match any human design. It was smooth, black, and shaped like a claw. Symbols glowed red along its side. Alien. Letters she didn't understand. She hit the emergency call button. "Mayday, mayday, this is mining station Theta 9. Unknown vessel inbound. We need assistance." No reply. Static filled the radio. Then the power died. Everything went black. Elena backed away from the console. She reached for the small emergency flashlight. As she turned it on, she heard something. A metal sound, like claws on the floor. She froze. The door behind her exploded open. Tall, armored figures stepped through. Their skin was gray, eyes glowing blue. Each held a strange weapon that hissed, with energy. Zarketh soldiers. Elena had heard rumors of them. They took what they wanted. They believed humans were weak. They didn't ask questions. They captured, experimented, and destroyed. She tried to run, but one of them grabbed her by the arm. His grip was cold, stronger than any human. She screamed and kicked, but it was useless. Another soldier hit her with a stun rod. Pain shot through her body. Darkness. She woke up inside a cage. Metal bars, cold floor. The air smelled like rust and oil. Around her were other prisoners, humans, aliens, even machines. Some were silent, some were crying. One woman sat shaking, whispering something over and over. Elena tried to speak, but her throat was dry. A voice came from the shadows. "You're awake." She turned. A man sat in the next cell, face bruised, one eye swollen shut. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice rough. "Prison ship," he said. "Zarketh flagship. You were taken, like all of us." "Why?" she whispered. He looked at her. "Because they can. To them, we're insects." She gripped the bars. "Someone will come. The fleet, Earth. They'll send help." He laughed, but there was no joy. "We're in deep space, far from human territory. No one knows we're here." Elena's hope began to crack. A siren rang out. Guards walked past their cells. Their armor clanked with each step. One stopped at her cell and looked in. "This one," he said in a sharp voice. "Take her." 2 others opened the door and dragged her out. She fought, but they were too strong. They brought her to a white room, bright lights, a chair in the center, machines on the walls. A tall alien with dark robes entered. "I am Overseer. Kavar," he said in a cold voice. "You are a human, your mind is weak, but we will test it." Elena stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" He walked closer. "Because you must learn your place." They strapped her to the chair. A device lowered toward her head. Pain. Lights. Noise. Voices in her mind. Memories twisted. Fear grew. She screamed. Later, back in her cell, she lay still. Her body trembled. Her mind felt broken. The man in the next cell watched her. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "They want to break you." Elena whispered. "Why don't they kill us?" "They enjoy the process." She closed her eyes. "Don't give up," he said. She opened her eyes. "Why do you care?" He leaned closer. "Because there's someone out there who's looking for you." Elena stared at him. He smiled weakly. "They call him the Ghost, a human soldier. He's been hunting Zarketh for years." "That's just a story," she said. "No," the man said. He's real. I've seen what he can do. The lights dimmed again. The guards returned. Another prisoner was taken. Elena closed her eyes, her heart heavy. Somewhere far across the stars, a shadow moved through space. A ship with no name, flown by a man with nothing left to lose. And he was coming. The ghost silence surrounded the black ship as it floated among dead stars. No signal. No ID tag. No light. Like a ghost. Inside, in a dark cockpit filled with scars of old battles, a man stood alone. His name was Jace Reeve. Once he was a commander in the Earth Defense Corps. Now he was something else. A whisper. A myth. A shadow. In the dark that terrified the alien empire. They called him the human ghost. But Jace didn't care about names. He had only one reason to live now. Elena. She had been taken, months ago. The message had come through a dying satellite. Zarketh attack, station destroyed, all humans captured or killed. They said no one survived. But Jace didn't believe in no one. He stood at the console, eyes scanning the star map. "Computer," he said. "Play the message again." A crackling sound filled the ship. "Mayday. This is Theta 9. They're here. Unknown ship." "Elena." Then static. He clenched his jaw. The map showed the location of a massive alien prison moon called Veltrax 6. It moved slowly around a dying star, hidden behind a wall of radiation, almost impossible to reach, but not for Jace. He had been planning this for weeks, every detail, every entry route, every guard pattern. He had studied the Zarketh, their language, their weaknesses. He had fought them in war. He knew what they feared. He knew they feared him. Inside a hidden locker, he checked his gear. Black armor, silenced plasma rifle, EMP grenades, one knife, one photograph of Elena. He looked at it, her smile frozen in time. "She's not dead," he said to himself. "Not until I see a body." The ship's AI voice came on. Stealth field active, enemy sensors offline. Approaching prison zone. Jay sat back in the pilot's chair. He watched as the prison moon came into view. It was huge, like a black rock covered in towers, guns, and lights. Ships flew in and out like insects. Around it spun clouds of dust and metal. "Place looks like hell," he whispered. Then he smiled. "Perfect." Meanwhile, deep inside Veltrax 6, Elena sat against the cold wall of her cell. Her hands were shaking. Her mind still burned from the last test. She had seen things that didn't make sense, visions, voices, memories that weren't hers. Overseer Caver was trying to break her, twist her into something else. She felt empty. Lost. But then she heard something. A quiet whisper from across the hall. "Tonight," someone said. "He comes tonight." She turned. "Who?" she asked. An old alien, his skin pale and cracked, looked at her with tired eyes. "The ghost," he said. Elena, the name echoed in her mind. Could it be true? Was Jace still alive? Back outside, Jace's ship attached to the underbelly of a trash transport entering the prison. Timing had to be perfect. He waited. The seconds passed. Then the hatch opened. He slipped out into darkness, crawling through vents, tunnels, old maintenance shafts no one used anymore. He didn't fire a shot, didn't make a sound. He was the shadow. A Zarketh patrol passed by a hallway. One stopped. He looked around. Heard something. Too late. Jace dropped from above. One hit. Silent. Body dragged into shadows. He kept moving. Inside the prison's control room, Overseer Kavar stood watching the monitors. Something felt wrong. He stared at the human girl's file, Elena Miles. She had resisted the mental probe longer than expected. Most humans broke within hours. She was different, stronger. That made her dangerous. "Prepare her for transfer," he said to a guard. "Sector 9. Use full restraints." "Sir," the guard said, "there are rumors about the ghost." Kavar turned slowly. His eyes glowed. "Let him come," he said. "He will not leave alive." Back in the lower levels, Jace found a dead end, a sealed door. Behind it, Sector 7. The prison block. Elena was there. He was sure. He planted a charge and stepped back. Boom. Silent flash. Door gone. He stepped inside and stopped. Dozens of cells, screams, guards rushing in, too many to fight. He grabbed a stun grenade, pulled the pin, and threw. Flash, noise, screams. He moved through smoke. Shot 3 guards. Took a keycard. He reached a cell marked human, high resistance level. Elena. He opened it. Empty. His breath caught. A voice came behind him. "You're too late." He turned. The prisoner from the next cell, the same man who had spoken to Elena. "They moved her," he said. "Sector 9. Kavar wants to end it." Jace felt rage rise. He handed the man a small pistol. "Then help me." The man smiled. "Always." And, far above across the galaxy, a signal bounced between satellites, a message left by Jace, encoded, hidden. To Earth. "I've found her. Operation Ghostfire begins now." The torture cell. The room was white. Too white. There were no corners, no shadows, just endless light from every side. Elena sat in the center, strapped to a cold metal chair. Her wrists ached. Her lips were cracked. Her body trembled from lack of sleep. But it wasn't the physical pain that scared her anymore. It was the voices. They came from nowhere. From the walls. From inside her head. Some were her own. Others weren't. "Do you remember Earth?" A voice whispered. She blinked. Her eyes were dry. Suddenly the smell of home hit her. The scent of wet soil after rain, of flowers in her mother's garden. For a moment, she was back. Walking in a forest. Jace was there, smiling, holding her hand. Then the image shattered. The forest burned. Jace turned to ash in her hands. She screamed. Overseer Kavar watched from the other side of the glass. "Human minds are fragile," he said. "But this one, she holds on." His assistant, a smaller alien with 4 mechanical eyes, nodded. "The probe is inside her memories now, but something resists." Kavar narrowed his glowing eyes. "Find what it is." Inside the chamber, the white walls shifted. They showed her images. Faces from her past. Her father. Her sister. Her best friend, all of them crying, begging. "Why didn't you save us, Elena?" She shook her head. "No, this isn't real." The room grew colder. Then came a new face. Jace. He was chained, bloody, dying. "Where were you, Elena?" he said. "You left me." She broke. Tears fell. "No, Jace. I'm sorry. I didn't." Suddenly the image glitched. Jace looked up straight into her eyes, but now his face was calm, his voice soft. "I'm coming for you." The machine sparked. The walls flickered. The AI controlling the torture room shut down for a second. In that tiny moment, Elena smiled. The real Jace had broken through. Somehow, Kavar slammed his hand on the console. "Pull her out, now." Guards rushed in and dragged her out of the chair. Her legs couldn't move. She was half conscious. But her mind had a new fire inside. He was alive. He was close. That night, Elena was thrown back into her cell. Her arms were bruised, her back burned, but her eyes were wide open. The man in the next cell leaned toward her. "You lasted longer than anyone," she whispered. "He's here." The man frowned. "What?" "Elena," she said. "That's what he called me. Not subject or prisoner. He used my name." "You saw him?" She nodded. "Not all of him, just a piece." It broke through the machine. The man smiled. "Then it's true. The ghost is real." Elsewhere, Jace and the former prisoner he freed, known only as Marek, moved through a dead corridor. No cameras here, only dust and silence. I can't believe she's in Sector 9, Marek said. That place is for breaking minds. She's stronger than they know, Jace replied. They reached a locked panel. Jace pulled out a hacking device. This door leads to the mental reprogramming wing. Isn't that where they keep— Yeah, Jace said. The worst of it. In a control center 2 floors up, a young Zarketh officer noticed something odd. Sir, there's movement in the lower tunnels. Kavar turned to him. What kind of movement? No security report. No patrol logs. But there's interference on the C-block sensors. Kavar stared at the screen. He's here. Back. In the tunnels, Jace finally got the door open. The hallway beyond was lit in red. Screams echoed through it. Memories being torn from minds. Lives being rewritten. Marek hesitated. You sure we're not already too late? Jace stepped forward. No, if she was dead, I'd feel it. In her cell, Elena sat up suddenly. She could feel it now, too. A pulse, a hum in the walls. Something had changed. A spark. Across the hall, another prisoner began to whisper. Then another. Soon the entire row of cells was filled with voices. He's here. The ghost. Hope. That was the real weapon. Kavar ordered every guard to Sector 9. Find him. Kill him. Burn everything, if you must. But it was already too late. Jace was inside. He and Marek took down 2 guards quietly. Jace grabbed one of their ID tags and scanned for Elena's cell. Block Delta, room 14, the system said. He moved faster. As he reached her cell, he saw her sitting there, looking up, waiting. Jace, she whispered. The door opened. He stepped inside. For a moment, there was only silence. Then she stood and threw her arms around him, weak but still strong. I thought you were a dream, she said. He held her. No, I'm your nightmare, Elena. And now I'm theirs. But it wasn't over. Alarms blared. From above, a voice screamed, Seal the exits! The ghost has the girl! Kill them both! Jace looked at her. Can you walk? She nodded. Run. They fled into the tunnels. Behind them, the entire station came alive with the sound of war. The break-in, the lights turned red, screams echoed across Veltrax 6. Heavy boots slammed the floors, alarms howled through metal walls, prisoners cried out in confusion. Security drones buzzed overhead like angry insects. The ghost was no longer a rumor. He was real. And now, he had her. Jace ran through the lower corridors. One arm wrapped around Elena to support her. She was still weak, but every step was stronger than the last. Behind them, metal doors slammed shut. Guards barked orders. Surveillance eyes turned, tracking them through every hallway. They didn't have much time. Marek followed closely behind, holding a stolen rifle. We need to get off this level, now. The bulkhead's closing. Jace skidded to a stop and pulled up a vent panel. This way. They dropped into the maintenance tunnels, tight, dark, unused for years. The air smelled like oil and dust. It was the only path not monitored by the Zarketh security grid. As they crawled, Elena whispered, How did you find me? Jace didn't answer for a moment. Then, I never stopped looking. He didn't say it, but she felt it. Every scar on his face, every shadow in his eyes, it was all for her. They reached an old shaft room. Huge metal chains hung from the ceiling. Machinery groaned. Far below was a trash incinerator. We climb up, Jace said. Elevators are locked. Elena looked up. The shaft stretched at least 10 floors. She nodded. Let's move. Halfway up, they heard a voice echo through the chamber. Run as far as you like, Ghost. You won't leave this place alive. Kavar's voice. Cold. Confident. Jace paused on the chain. He's scared. He doesn't sound scared, Marek said, breathing hard. Jace smirked. Exactly. As they reached the top, they entered a new zone. Level 4, Ship Access Bay. But something felt wrong. Too quiet. Jace raised a hand. Everyone froze. A red laser suddenly appeared across the wall. Sniper Jace dove forward, pulling Elena down. The laser fired. Sparks exploded from the wall. "Ambush!" he shouted. Drones burst from the ceiling, weapons glowing. Elena grabbed a fallen blaster and fired. One drone exploded in sparks. She had never fired a weapon before, but this time it felt natural. Marek covered them, shouting, "More coming left!" Jace rushed toward a side room. This way, through the fuel chamber. Inside, huge tanks of star fuel hummed quietly. One wrong shot, and the whole level would explode. Jace moved carefully. The lights flickered. Suddenly, movement. A squad of Zarketh soldiers stepped from the shadows. Too many. Jace threw an EMP grenade. It pulsed blue, shutting off all electronics, including drones. "Run!" They burst through the other side of the chamber. Elena gasped, coughing from smoke. She stopped. "Wait, Jace, what if we don't make it out?" He turned, eyes fierce. "Then we make them regret ever touching you." Meanwhile, in the command tower, Overseer Kavar watched everything. Why does he risk so much for her? His assistant asked. Kavar stared at the screen. He is human. Their kind values connection, emotion. It makes them weak. But he's winning. Kavar's eyes narrowed. Because she is his strength. He tapped the console. "Prepare the Omega gate. If he reaches it, we activate the failsafe." Jace's team reached the outer ring. Only one gate stood between them and the launch bay. Elena looked at the massive door. "We're close, right?" Jace nodded. Suddenly, a voice came from a nearby speaker. "It's not a gate," the voice said. Marek turned. "What?" "It's a trap." The door slid open. Inside wasn't the launch bay. It was a chamber filled with Zarketh warriors, hundreds, all weapons aimed, all waiting. A giant energy wall activated behind them. No way back. Kavar's trap had closed. Jace stepped forward. He looked at Elena. "Whatever happens, you run, got it?" She shook her head. "Not without you." He smiled. Then he dropped a small device on the ground. It beeped, and then darkness. Everything went black. Jace's secret weapon, a full-power blackout grenade. The room exploded in chaos. Screams, blaster fire, lights flickering. Jace moved like a shadow, taking down enemies one by one. Marek shouted, "Exit on the left!" Elena followed, dodging fire. Her body screamed with pain, but she didn't stop. She refused to stop. They escaped through a broken side tunnel, crawling through a fuel duct. Outside, in the launch bay, a single old transport ship waited, half-broken, barely working. Their only chance, they jumped inside. Jace ran to the cockpit and slammed controls. "Hold on." The engines roared. From the walls, more soldiers appeared. Drones opened fire. The ship took off just as a missile hit the launch pad behind them. Boom! They shot into space. But they weren't safe yet. A massive Zarketh cruiser moved into their path. It blocked the stars. Jace looked at the ship's small laser cannons. "No way we're fighting that." He turned to Elena. "Time to use the ace." He reached into a hidden compartment and pulled out a small cube. "What is that?" she asked. "A gift from Earth." He pressed it. The cube blinked. Then, every Zarketh ship within 1,000 kilometers shut down. Dead silence. Jace grinned. EMP pulse. Custom made. Only works once. They flew through the dead fleet like ghosts. Free. But even as they escaped far away, deep in the core of the prison moon, Kavar stood in front of a new chamber. Inside, something stirred. Something worse than soldiers. Worse than machines. Kavar whispered, "Let the warden wake. The ghost has made this personal." The rebellion spark stars stretched like rivers as the stolen ship raced through hyperspace. Inside, the lights flickered. Warning alarms buzzed. The hull groaned from the damage taken during escape, but none of that mattered. Elena sat in the co-pilot seat, silent, watching the stars blur past. Her hands were trembling, still dirty and bruised, but her eyes, Her eyes were alive. Free. For now. Jace sat beside her, steering the ship, eyes focused ahead. His jaw was tight. He hadn't spoken since they left Veltrac 6. Not out of anger. Out of focus. They had escaped, but the war wasn't over. It had just begun. Far behind them, deep in the prison systems of the Zarketh Empire, the news spread fast. The ghost freed a human prisoner. He broke through Sector 9. He escaped the Omega Gate. Guards whispered it. Prisoners shouted it. Commanders feared it. On mining colonies and torture stations, a strange thing began to happen. Hope. In the slave pits of Zarnus 3, a human, miner named Briggs slammed his hammer down and looked up at the sky. They say he escaped, the alien warden laughed. It's a lie. A human can't fight the Empire. Briggs dropped his tool and smiled. Maybe it's time we prove you wrong. In a deep space labor camp, a young girl carved a name into the metal wall of her cell. Jace. Back on the ship, Elena finally spoke. They'll be hunting us. Jace nodded. They already are. So what now? He didn't answer at first. Then, with a small sigh, he turned to her. We start hitting back. The ship exited hyperspace and dropped into orbit around a dead moon. Hidden inside a crater was an old outpost. Forgotten, dark, still running on backup power. Jace landed silently. This is Echo Base, he said. Abandoned during the War of 9 systems. Is it safe? Merrick asked, looking around. No place is safe anymore, Jace replied. But this one's mine. Inside, Jace activated the old systems. Lights flickered on. A central console came to life. A small AI voice welcomed him back. Welcome, Commander Reeve. He connected to the outer relay satellites. Signal strength, weak, encrypted channel. Active. He sent a message out, not to Earth, but to every hidden cell across the fringe. A short, simple message. The ghost is real. The fire is lit. It's time. The reply came faster than expected, from one world, then 2, then hundreds. Ready. Standing by. Long live the ghost. Kavar watched the chaos unfold from his private chamber. Dozens of screens showed riots, sabotage, prison breaks, and silent guards dead in their halls. He stood in silence. Behind him, a large sealed door hissed open. A figure stepped out. A being taller than any Zarketh, wrapped in chains and armor. Its voice was cold metal. You summon me, Overseer? Kavar turned. Yes, Warden. The humans have lit a fire. He paused. I want it crushed. Back on Echo Base, Elena sat beside a flickering console, listening to the messages come in. A woman's voice from a mining world. My son was taken. If you're fighting, I'll fight too. A former soldier's voice from a spaceport. I thought we lost, but if you're out there, I'll stand again. Elena looked at Jace. Did you know it would happen? He shook his head. I just wanted to save you. She touched his hand. You started a revolution. Merrick entered the room with a data pad. We have a list, he said. 10 major Zarketh facilities. Weak points, old routes, hidden codes. Jace stood. Then we hit them. One by one? Jace's eyes narrowed. No. All at once. Across the galaxy a signal went out. Encrypted, masked, untraceable. Instructions, coordinates, targets. The ghost's plan. Not just to save lives, not just to fight back, to break the Empire. But the Zarketh had plans of their own. On the other side of the galaxy, Kavar addressed the Warden. Let the experiments begin. Use the minds we took. Rebuild them. Create something new. The Warden smiled. I will give you an army made from their pain. That night, Elena walked outside the base and looked at the stars. She had been a prisoner. A victim. Now she was something else. A symbol. She whispered. You didn't just save me, Jace. You gave them a reason to stand. Inside, Jace prepared the weapons, the ships, the plans. The galaxy was waking up. and he was going to make sure it never slept again. The Last Stand. The sky over Dralos 4 turned black at noon. Dozens of ships blotted out the sun. Smugglers, ex-soldiers, miners, and outcasts. People from every corner of the galaxy. Not one of them was part of an army, but every single one had a reason to fight. They followed a signal, a message that changed everything. The ghost is real. Rise now, or never. Inside a modified assault cruiser, Jay stood before a group of rebel captains. His armor was scratched. His face was tired, but his voice was steady. We hit 5 targets. At once, he said. Fuel depot, AI control hub, weapon factory, slave station, and the central command node. The room went quiet. That's suicide, someone said. Jace nodded. Maybe. But if we cut off their spine today, the Zarketh Empire won't recover. Helena stood near the back of the room, listening. She remembered what it felt like to be helpless, caged, broken. Now she carried a weapon on her back and purpose in her chest. She walked up beside Jace. You don't have to do this alone anymore, she said. He looked at her. You've already done more than I ever hoped. She smiled. I'm not done yet. Meanwhile, on Veltrax 6, Kavar walked into the cold chamber beneath the surface. The lights were dim. The air smelled of acid and burning circuits. In the center, floating in thick red liquid, was Subject 001, once a human, now something else. Twisted by pain, remade by alien science. A voice echoed in Kavar's mind. Command me. Kavar smiled. You are no longer a prisoner. You are a weapon. Hunt the ghost. Crush the rebellion. The creature opened its eyes, black, empty, and full of hate. Back in orbit above Dralos 4, the rebel fleet prepared for war. Merrick ran down the hallway of Jace's ship holding a tablet. We just got reports. Resistance cells on 20 planets have started uprisings. They're actually fighting back. Jace nodded. Then we give them a real chance. He stepped into the war room and pulled up a hologram. This is where we break them, he said, pointing at the command node. It's deep inside the space fortress Naraka, the place they never expected us to reach. Elena leaned in. Then we go where they think we won't. Hours later, the battle began. The first rebel wave hit the AI control hub. Drones went blind. Enemy targeting systems crashed. The second wave disabled the slave transport lines. Thousands of captives were freed. Elena led a strike team into a weapons facility. She moved with speed and fury, using what she had learned, what the pain taught her. She didn't just fight, she inspired. Meanwhile, Jace led the charge toward Naraka. The fortress was massive, sharp like a blade, surrounded by planetary guns. But Jace had a trick. He didn't attack from space. He crashed his ship straight into the side of it. Smoke. Fire. Chaos. He stepped out of the wreckage with one goal. Find Kavar. End it. But Kavar was no longer in command. Subject 001 had escaped, slaughtered the guards, shut down the failsafe. It moved through the fortress like a nightmare, invisible, silent, impossible to stop. Elena's team breached the inner ring of the weapon lab. They planted charges and hacked into the central system. Suddenly, alarms blared. An emergency alert flashed on the screen. Subject 01 inbound. Termination protocols failed. She looked at the footage. A tall, pale creature with spikes instead, of veins. No eyes. A face stretched into something not human anymore. Her hands froze. She recognized the face. Not the skin. Not the body, but the memory inside. It was Tyler, a crew member from her mining station. He had been captured the same day as her. Now, he was a monster. Jace reached the command chamber. Kavar stood waiting. You think this will save your kind? Kavar asked. Jace walked slowly, weapon down. I didn't come to save us. Kavar tilted his head. Then why? Jace smiled. To bury you. He pulled a hidden detonator. Boom. The floor collapsed beneath Kavar. They both fell into the central core. Smoke and fire surrounded them as they fought. Fists, blades, teeth. Jace bled. But Kavar screamed louder. The Overseer fell into the plasma core, gone. But Jace didn't rise. Elena reached him minutes later after pushing through the ruins. He was on his knees, barely breathing. I'm still here, he said weakly. She knelt beside him. You did it? He coughed. Not yet. She looked behind him. A shadow moved through the smoke. Subject 001, it growled her name, not with words but memory. Elena. Her eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward. No more pain, she said softly. The creature hesitated. For a moment, then it roared and charged. Jace raised his weapon. Bang, bang, bang. But it didn't fall. Elena grabbed the last charge from her belt. I'm sorry, Tyler. She ran straight at him, wrapped the charge around his chest and jumped back. A flash of light. A scream that wasn't human anymore. Silence. Later, as the fleet regrouped and fires cooled across 100 systems, people spoke of that day. They called it the Burning Dawn, the day the ghost lit the galaxy on fire and gave the darkness a reason to be afraid. The defiant smoke still hung in the sky of Naraka. The mighty Zarketh fortress, once thought untouchable, now floated in pieces. Its weapons were silent. Its walls were bleeding, but even in victory there was no celebration yet, because deep within the wreckage, something still moved. And in orbit above, a fleet of black ships arrived, the last loyal army of the Empire. On the bridge of a rebel cruiser, Elena stood at the viewing window. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled. Below them, Naraka burned. Above, death approached. She turned to Jace, who leaned against the console, bandaged and weak but still standing. They're coming, she said. Jace nodded. I know. They'll wipe us out. Not if we finish what we started. Across, the rebel network distress signals and orders echoed. Multiple enemy ships inbound. We're outnumbered 10-1. Shields down on 2 flanks. The rebellion's final stand had begun. And Jace knew this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about breaking the enemy's will, once and for all. Inside the enemy flagship, the new supreme commander of the Zarketh stepped into a throne of black steel. His armor was alive, covered in glowing scars from the rebellion's attacks. He had no name, only a title, the final voice. He looked out across the war map. One word escaped his mouth. Erase them. Jace stood in the middle of the war, room surrounded by leaders of the rebellion, miners, pirates, soldiers, engineers, all exhausted, all angry. Merrick slammed his hand on the table. We can't fight them in open space. They'll tear us apart. Another commander spoke up. Live to fight again. Jace shook his head. No more hiding. He walked slowly around the table. We fight. Not for a planet, not for a flag. He looked at each of them. For every soul they crushed. For every child they broke. For everyone who thought we were weak. He picked up a metal disc from the table, the AI core stolen from Naraka. This is our last card. Using the AI core, Elena and the rebellion techs uploaded a virus into the old satellite grid around Naraka. It connected to abandoned comm stations, derelict satellites, forgotten AI servers. It was slow, risky, fragile. But if it worked, it would shut down the enemy's ships in orbit for exactly 7 minutes. 7 minutes to strike or die. As the rebel fleet formed, people across the galaxy watched. Prisoners in cells turned to sky windows. Children on mining worlds stopped and stared. Farmers on frontier planets held their breath. And on Earth, silent for years, the lights of the old defense stations flickered back to life. The final voice saw the rebel ships charging. He laughed. Fools. But then, everything went dark. The virus worked. In one instant, half the Zarketh fleet lost control. Shields dropped. Engines stalled. The rebels flew in. All ships. Now, Jace shouted. Elena led the fighter wings. Target the command. Decks. Break their lines. The battle lit up space like a second sun. Ship after ship exploded. Drones collided. People screamed over comms, some in fear, some in joy. Jace's ship was hit. Fire spread through the corridor. He didn't stop. He reached the escape pod, pulled the manual override, and launched straight into the heart of the enemy. Command ship. A direct hit. A one-man boarding. Inside the command ship, Jace fought his way through corridors of death. He wasn't silent anymore. He wanted them to hear his footsteps, his weapon, his war cry. He wanted them to know that a human had come for their king. He reached the throne room. The final voice turned slowly, a giant towering over Jace. "You think you are the end of us?" Jace aimed his rifle. "No, I'm the beginning of something better." The two charged. Outside, Elena's ship was swarmed by enemy drones. She was losing altitude. Systems failing. She closed her eyes, and then a sound came through her headset. Jace's voice. "Fire the last strike. Now." "But she said. "Do it. I've already chosen my ending." Elena pressed the trigger. The energy core. Inside, Naraka exploded. The blast ripped through the command ship. The throne room vanished in white light. The final voice screamed, and Jace was gone. Silence. Then, across the system, enemy ships dropped from the sky. The rebellion had done the impossible. They broke the Empire. Hours later, as ships floated quietly and the fire faded from the stars, Elena stood alone on a cliff, watching the horizon from an old rebel outpost. She held the dog tag Jace had left behind. Carved into it was a single line: "We were never weak." In the weeks that followed, the rebellion spread, worlds rose, prisons fell. The Zarketh lost more than territory. They lost fear. And when people asked who ended the war, no one said a name, they said a legend: the ghost.